For most of us, walking across an entire country is a major mission. You need to be prepared and have the right gear. So I decided to talk to an expert. I was in Malaysia just before my last Camino, so I chased down adventure wear specialist at his store just outside of Kuala Lumpur to ask him about sexy socks and magical materials. I know they're not a sexy subject. They may make or break your Camino. You can just get a pair of cotton socks from down at the corner shop, but they're really not going to work effectively. Most daily socks are made from cotton, which is fine for the office, but not ideal for 900-kilometer walks in a Spanish summer. Cotton socks absorb sweat, saturate quickly, and dry slowly, which are the perfect starting conditions for blisters and fungal infections.
This one, merino itself, is good in terms of actually it doesn't smell.
Wool is also thermostatic, so it has some temperature regulating properties and is moisture wicking with a high saturation point. Unfortunately, I've seen people develop really nasty rashes from wool in high heat and humidity, so make sure you test out your socks before you hit the trail. And if you do get rashes, you'll need to treat it with a topical steroid cream.
So versus technical sports socks, yeah, the technology of weaving the thing is seamless, so you won't get blisters. So when you turn it around, it's smooth. Yeah.
And these have extra padding as well.
Yes, extra padding on the toe as well as on the heel.
Technical socks are usually synthetic materials which retain their shape, are moisture wicking, and quick drying. The biggest downside to synthetics always is that they stink.
So these are waterproof and breathable socks. It's windproof as well.
We're going to assume that your shoes or your boots are already wet. You've done everything you can to keep them dry, but they haven't stayed dry, so now you've got waterproof socks to put into your wet shoes.
Yes.
On the subject of keeping your feet dry, you also want to keep the inside of your boots dry. Now, I bought this expensive talc powder. Now, the reason this is more expensive than a regular talc is because it has aluminium and zinc. And apparently these things are good for stopping funguses from growing. You don't want funguses growing inside your boot because then they're going to go on your feet and you're going to get tinnier and it's going to be itchy and gross. So, smash it with this.
Toe socks isolate each toe, which prevents hot spots associated with skin-to-skin rubbing and allow your forefoot a more natural range of motion. The downside is they're a pain in the ass to put on. And another great option for your feet are sock liners. These are very thin socks that are worn inside your socks. Something that you need to think a hell of a lot about before you plan your Camino is what you're going to wear. You're only going to have maybe 1 or 2 changes of clothes because you can't carry that much stuff. So what sort of materials are we looking for when we're on the Camino?
Sure. Merino wool itself is actually you feel more comfortable compared to polyesters.
Okay.
It's much soft and
it's
very more
soft.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like a cotton feel. But merino, when you pick a merino, you pick for a much lighter weight one.
And that's measured in grams, isn't it?
Yes, right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So this is like 100 grams or 150 grams or something.
Right.
Okay.
This the most ideal one is poly. So poly actually dry fastest and at the same time wicks the moisture away faster as well. So the only thing is that with this poly, it may get smelly, although after you wash. When you sweat.
I'm a merino fan. I wear merino because it's naturally antibacterial.
Yes, right.
But then I do find that poly is all that stuff. It's a little cooler. It's kind of silky. Yes. But then I stink every time.
You're right.
Yeah.
But not everybody fit merino because some people might have allergic to wool.
Yeah.
So they have no choice. You have to pick poly or cotton.
Yeah.
Most of the shirts actually comes with UV protections. Like this one is actually gives you about 40% UV protections. You may want to get a cut which have a lot of ventilations, so you don't feel hot. Yeah, so the winds can blow in and can dry faster. And some of these features is like stretchiness.
Oh.
So you feel more comfortable.
Yeah. So these are good ways to avoid overheating. Less sun exposure. Also, a collar is helpful for less sun exposure because your neck is going to be in the sun all day. Oh, and it's got a little vent for your neck
Yes.
as well. And it's very fashionable. You can take this to an evening event. Technical wear is expensive, and a very reasonable option, which is something you probably already own, is sportswear. They are usually made from similar materials, but lack some of the functionality, durability, and dare I say it, fashionability. So what sort of things are we looking for when we're looking at a technical fiber?
Basically, you're looking at the lightness, you're looking at actually fast drying, you're looking at the UV protections, you're looking at fast wicking of your sweat, yeah. So these are, as well as certain features like venting, you know. So these are the things that you should look for when you look for proper wear for your Camino trips.
Cool, excellent. Now, do you have something like a long black dress, maybe something that's a little pinched at the sides,
Dress?
little bit of cleavage?
No. Definitely no.
Have you had an occasion of sucky socks? Let us know your story in the comments below, and please like and share. A big thanks to my Indiegogo and Patreon supporters.